Have you ever finished a conversation and then spent the next few hours quietly replaying it in your mind, wondering if you said the right thing, wondering how it came across, wondering if that one moment landed differently than you meant it to? Maybe you've found yourself lying awake at night, not because anything went wrong, but because your mind decided that 2 a.m. was the right time to revisit something from years ago. Or maybe you've made a decision, a perfectly reasonable decision, and immediately felt the question start. Did I think it through enough? Was that the right call? What if I'm wrong? If that sounds familiar, I want you to hear this clearly. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not too sensitive. You are not broken. You are someone with a very human brain, doing exactly what it was built to do.
And today we're going to gently explore why. Let's start with something
that might actually bring you some relief. Overthinking is not a character flaw. It is not a sign of weakness. It is not something to be ashamed of. It is your brain, fulfilling its most fundamental purpose. Your brain has one deeply ingrained priority: not happiness, not peace, not connection. As much as we need those things, its first priority is keeping you safe. And the part of your brain responsible for that, the amygdala, cannot tell the difference between a genuine physical threat and the uncertainty of an unanswered message. Late at night, to your nervous system, uncertainty and danger feel remarkably similar. So when your brain encounters something it cannot predict, how a conversation was received, whether a decision was right, what someone truly meant, it doesn't know how to simply let go. Instead, it does what it was designed to do. It works. It turns the situation over. It imagines possible outcomes. It looks for something solid to hold on to. That is what overthinking is. It is not self-destruction, reaching for safety in the only way it is your mind, reaching for safety in the only way it knows how. Now here is where things become a little more tender, because your brain isn't just searching for uncertainty. It is specifically drawn toward the negative. Psychologists call this the negativity bias. And what it means is that your mind is wired, genuinely biologically wired, to hold on to difficult experiences more tightly than joyful ones. One moment of criticism can sit heavier than 10 moments of genuine praise. One uncomfortable silence can stay with you longer than 100 easy, warm exchanges. One thing that didn't go well
can replay
long after the things that did have quietly faded. This is not you choosing to focus on the hard things. This is something far older than choice. For most of human history, the people who noticed danger, who remembered what went wrong, who treated every uncertain moment with caution, those were the people who made it through. Your brain inherited that sensitivity, that finely tuned awareness. That was once genuinely life-saving. The tenderness of it is this: you're no longer navigating those kinds of threats. You're sitting with a phone in your hand. You're reading a short reply to something you put your heart into. You're waiting for a response that may simply be delayed. And your ancient, loyal, exhausted brain is treating it with the same urgency it once reserved for survival. It doesn't know any different. It's doing its best. Here is something important that doesn't get talked about enough. Overthinking doesn't just visit you. Over time, it becomes a pattern, a loop your mind returns to, because on some level, it has learned to find comfort there. And it moves like this. Something happens. A conversation, a choice, a moment that doesn't feel fully resolved. Your mind registers the discomfort of not knowing and instinctively reaches for thinking as the way through it. If I just go over this one more time, if I look at it from every angle, if I figure out exactly what happened, I'll feel better. And so you think, and for a moment, it feels like something. It feels like you're working toward an answer. But for certain kinds of pain, thinking is not the path to relief.
How someone truly feels about you,
whether you made the right decision, whether you are enough, these are not questions that are resolved through more analysis. And the more your mind reaches for answers, in places they cannot be found, the more questions surface. More angles, more doubts, more quiet what-ifs, which brings more discomfort, which brings more thinking. This is why you can spend hours with a single thought and feel further from peace at the end of it than when you started. You weren't doing anything wrong. You were simply caught in a loop that was designed to feel like progress while keeping you still, because not all deep thinking is the same. Psychology draws a meaningful line between two experiences that can feel similar from the inside, but lead to very different places: reflection and rumination. Reflection has a quiet direction to it.
Like,
What can I take from this experience? What does this moment tell me about what I need? How might I approach this differently? Reflection moves. It asks questions that can be answered. It arrives somewhere eventually. Rumination feels different. Why does this keep happening to me? What is it about me that causes this? Why can't I just be okay? These questions circle around. They are not really looking for answers. They are expressions of real pain, disguised as inquiry. And the tender truth about rumination is that it often lingers, not because you are doing something wrong, but because somewhere along the way, your nervous system learned that staying inside the difficulty felt more familiar than stepping beyond it. If you've noticed that you overthink, not just the painful things, but the good things too, waiting quietly for them to unravel, that is not pessimism. That is a nervous system that hasn't yet fully learned that it is safe to let good things stay. Overthinking itself is not new. Human minds have always wandered into worry and uncertainty, but the weight of it, the way it has settled so deeply into so many lives right now, that is worth looking at, because the world we are living in was not designed with your nervous system in mind. We are surrounded by an almost endless number of choices: what to pursue, who to become,
how to spend time,
where to belong, which version of yourself to offer to which corner of the world. Every unresolved choice becomes something your mind carries quietly in the background, open, unfinished, gently consuming energy. And then there is the particular weight of a life lived partly online. Platforms that, whatever their intention, offer your threat detection system a steady, endless stream of comparison, of curated versions of other lives, of ambiguous responses and quiet silences that your mind rushes to interpret. Every interaction, your nervous system logged. Every moment of social uncertainty, it's stored away. That accumulates, and it becomes part of the quiet voice that finds you in the still hours of the night. So what do we do with all of this? And I want to be honest, genuinely honest, with you here. There is no quick resolution, no simple method that undoes something this deeply woven into how we are built. But there are things that genuinely, quietly help. The first is simply noticing, not just feeling the spiral, but stepping back far enough to observe it, to say gently to yourself, this is the loop. My mind is looking for certainty in a place it cannot find it, and that is okay. Research shows that simply naming what we are experiencing, putting words to the feeling, measurably softens the intensity of the response in the brain.
You are not trying to stop the thoughts. You are simply creating
a little space between yourself and the storm, just enough space to remember you are not the storm. The second is giving worry its own time. This may sound unusual, but there is real evidence behind it. Setting aside a small, specific window each day, 15 or 20 quiet minutes, to write down what's circling, to sit with what feels unresolved, and then, gently, outside of that window, choosing to redirect, teaches your mind that its concerns will be heard. It doesn't have to interrupt your sleep to be taken seriously. It has a place. And the third is perhaps the most gradual and the most meaningful, learning to sit with not knowing, because beneath almost every overthinking spiral lives one quiet, aching question. How does this end? And will I be okay? The work, the slow, patient, deeply human work is learning to hold that question without needing to answer it immediately, to let uncertainty exist without treating it as something that must be resolved
right now.
That is not something that happens quickly, but every time you choose to step gently out of the loop, even briefly, you are showing your nervous system something new, that you can be here in the unknown and still be safe.
I want to leave you with something.
I hope you'll carry gently. Your overthinking mind is not working against you. It is a very tired, very devoted part of you that has been quietly on watch for a long time, trying to protect you from a world it was never quite designed for. It doesn't need to be fought. It doesn't need to be fixed. It needs to be understood. And maybe, with a little bit of compassion, the goal is never to think less deeply. Depth is a gift. Sensitivity is a gift. The ability to feel things fully, even when it aches, is part of what makes you a genuinely, beautifully human. The invitation is simply this: to learn the difference between the thinking that moves you forward and the thinking that keeps you company in the places you were never meant to stay. You have made it through every difficult night so far. That matters more than you know. Your mind is not broken. It is carrying more than it should, and that, with time and care, can slowly change.